Hey guys, it's Kaz here, and today, seems it's November, and it's non-fiction November, I thought I'd take you on a journey through all of my polar exploration books. Yes, that is correct. A video that nobody has asked for, and that nobody cares about, but I thought you could come with me and join in on my hyperfixation. So yeah, I'll insert a little clip here of my polar shelves. So I have this one and this one, but there are books behind here as well, and the same on that side. And let's just get into it. I'm not going to go into deep with these if I can try not to, you know what I'm like when I talk about polar stuff. But yeah, I'm just going to show you the books. So first up, the top shelf is just full of massive coffee table books. So first up we have the Shackleton Voyages. This one is introduced by Roland Huntford, who is a name you will see crop up in a little while. He's a guy that does a lot of biographies about the polar exploration people. So he's the perfect person to do an introduction on this. And yeah, this is just pictures and stuff, an anthology. As you can guess, all of these big ones are going to have loads of pictures and stuff in. Next up we have The Lost Photographs of Captain Scott by David M. Wilson. Again, this is a photo book, so it is well packed there with those sorts of words. But yeah, this is all of the photos that were saved on that trip. So it goes through loads in here, and then right at the back of the book it has like every single picture that was saved from the journey, which is kind of cool. Next up we have Lines in the Ice, Exploring the Roof of the World by Philip J. Hatfield. This is a very new book for me. I only got it last month. You would have seen it in my haul, so I can't really tell you much about this one. But it's just all about all sort of different polar travels. So it's not going to be based on one explorer. It's just going to be about polar travel in general and what happened and what we learnt and all that jazz. So I feel like this is going to be an interesting one. Next up we have the Amundsen photographs, edited and introduced by, you guessed it, Roland Huntford. Again, similar thing, but with Roald Amundsen. Photographs, words. There's a lot of colourful, colourised ones in here, which is cool. So a bit different to all the black and white ones. Next we have South of Endurance, Shackleton's Antarctic Expedition 1914 to 1917. The Photographs of Frank Hurley. That is a long ass title. But yeah, as you can tell, this is Endurance, which is Shackleton, but this is specifically talking about the photographer Frank Hurley, who was on the trip. So it does have all of the Endurance photographs, but then towards the end it does talk about other things that Frank Hurley, the photographer, photographed. So it does talk about his early work, stuff that he photographed afterwards. So this one is an interesting one. And last but not least on that top shelf, we have the Behemoth, which is the Nansen photographs. This is by Geir O'Cluver. This one I got in the Fram Museum in Oslo in Norway, so you can only buy it there, and it is a massive, massive book. And this one is just all about Nansen, so it goes through obviously the Arctic stuff, but also he won a Nobel Peace Prize. He did loads of stuff for refugees. He was a scientist first and like discovered sciencey stuff, so he was a guy and did a lot of stuff. That's why this book is so bloody massive. So that was a top shelf. Let's head on over to a message for one of the sponsors, and I'll be back with the next shelf. The normal books now. I can actually hold them properly. A nice little insight into the editing of this. This is me editing this exact video. Or attempting to anyway. Hello. You're so helpful. So these next two are also little things that I got from the Fram Museum. First up we have Antarctic Pioneers, the Voyage of the Belgica, 1897 to 99. This is about the Belgica, as you can imagine. I think this was like, it came up to like £2, obviously, in krona. Yeah, it says 20 krona on the back, so under £2. But yeah, it has loads of cool images of sunken ships afterwards, after it had been found, and loads of information and pictures and stuff. And the other one is Roald Amundsen and the Exploration of the Northwest Passage. And again, it's just a little fun book that has information and maps and pictures and a nice little bite-sized chunk. Next up, Erebus, The Story of a Ship by Michael Palin. Side note, I absolutely love this cover. It's so much fun. And yeah, this is about the Erebus ship, which was before like the hero age of polar exploration. This one was a little bit earlier. And there was the Erebus and the Terror ship, and like stuff went wrong. But this one is specifically about the ship. So at the beginning it talks about how it was made and stuff. It's not necessarily about the voyage, it's about the actual ship. something a bit different. Well, this one does have a few pictures in here as well as being words. So, yeah. Next up I have the Roald Amundsen Diaries, the South Pole Expedition 1910 to 12. This one was another one that I got from Fram Museum. So again, you can only get it from the Fram. And this is literally like his diary, so it says on it, if you can see it, it's got the actual like dates and it's literally just like written. Oh, this is what happened on this day, this is what happened on this day. Next up, The Expedition by Bia Uzma. This is about an expedition that Bia became fascinated by like 100 years later. Oh, sorry if my eyes look red, I just had a little bit of a coughing fit. This was an expedition that failed and nobody knows why. They were found with enough food, ammunition, clothing, shelter to not die, so it's like, why did they die? And this is really cool because it's like, it's really quick to read. There's loads of different random stuff in here. She comes up with different theories. There's a whole passage. It's like, where are we? In here, so it goes through like every single day of all the guys that were on the expedition, what they wrote down, what was wrong with them, trying to figure out like if there was a specific thing that happened, if they ate something that was weird and wrong. So it's actually really interesting, this one is. Something a bit different. Next I have Icebound, The Jeanette Expedition's Quest for the North Pole by Leonard F. Guttridge, and this is another one that I got last month, so it's very new to the collection, about the Jeanette Expedition, and this is the only book, well the first book, that I've got that's about the Jeanette Expedition, so it's going to be interesting hopefully. We have Endurance by F.A. Worsley. So Worsley was the captain on the Endurance and then he wrote the book about it. This whole story, Shackleton's story, the Endurance, is really interesting and like proper heroic tale. I've talked about it loads of times on here, but if you want to know about it, basically the ship broke and then they had to sail on the water in these tiny ships, and then Shackleton and a few other people had to nip over to a different island and then trek over the island that hadn't been like mapped out, so they didn't know where the shit they were going, to try and get to some real people to try and save all the other guys, and then everyone survived. So it's like really interesting epic adventure. Next we have quite a chunky one. This is Shackleton by Roland Hunsford, just a full biography. We also have Nansen by Roland Hunsford, again a biography all about Nansen. And then we have, well, it used to be called The Last Place on Earth, but it's also called Scott and Amundsen by Roland Hunsford. This is less of a biography about an individual, but it's about the race to the South Pole, because Scott and Amundsen both raced at the same time, and it tells you the difference between how they were and why one of them won and got back quick and the other one all died. So yes. Next up we have Madhouse at the End of the Earth by Julian Sancton. This is about the Belgica expedition. I mentioned it earlier in one of those little thin ones I got from the Fram Museum, but this is a really cool book as well. It's not as heavy as a lot of the other ones because they're non-fiction, it's like a lot of information, but this one is written like an interesting, creepy, weird thing, because basically they got stuck in ice and then scurvy happened and then some people went a little bit loopy and like stuff happened. So it's written in a really engaging, interesting way. So if you're not really interested in like heavy ass polar stuff, this one might be one that you'd enjoy. Madhouse at the End of the Earth, because like they were going mad because of the scurvy. Next I have Shackleton's Boat Journey by F.A. Worsley. Again, Worsley, the captain of the ship. This is just about the boat journey that went from the broken Endurance. After that, this is like just the epic, crazy journey that they had to go on. Next up, The Worst Journey in the World by Apsley Cherry Garrard. He was on the expedition with Captain Scott, who I mentioned earlier. They all died. And he was one of the people that didn't go on like the journey to the South Pole. He was on the crew, but he was one of the guys that had to go out and try and find the bodies after they didn't come back. So yeah, the worst journey in the world. Makes sense. Next up we have An Unsung Hero, Tom Crean, Antarctic Survivor. Again, one of the guys that was on one of the cruise ships. And he was one of the explorers, but like not the big name. But obviously they also write books and have stories about them, so yeah. And he was very much the dog guy. So in the photograph books, it's really cute because it's like Tom Crean and his pups, and he's just got these big puppies with him. So yeah. Next up we have Endurance, The Greatest Adventure Story Ever Told by Alfred Lansing. This one is really annoying because when you type in Endurance, the book, on Amazon, this one comes up first instead of like the book by the actual captain of the ship. So, you know, first of all, stop that. but second of all, yeah, it's telling that story. Next up I have The Lost Men by Kelly Tyler Lewis, the harrowing story of Shackleton's Ross Sea Party. So basically, with the endurance story, there's like, yay, everyone survived, but then people don't really talk about the Ross Sea Party. So they went to the other side of the South Pole because they were dropping like food along the trail, and their ship also went away, and like just what was it, like 8 men were left there. There weren't many anyway, so it was about them, and some of them did actually die, unfortunately. So this one is interesting to see the other side of the great epic nobody died story, because like some of them did, and technically they were like in the same expedition, just on the other ship. Next up I have Farthest North, the epic adventure of a visionary explorer by Fridtjof Nansen. I got this one again from the Fram Museum. This is the first you'll see Farthest North, but I am going to show you it again twice in a second. So first of all, I have this set of Farthest North. I have different pictures on the front. These are first edition volumes of Farthest North, volume 1 and volume 2. They have loads of images in them as well. Let me put one of them down. So these were published in 1897, this exact book, and throughout they have pictures in them, like photographs. Only in the first edition versions. There are also coloured plates, if I can show you that. This one is not the most colourful, but it's the first one I can find, of actual artworks that Fridtjof Nansen did. So this one is a watercolour sketch from the 22nd of September 1893 at sunset. So that's just a really cool. And then right at the back as well, it has maps in here, like a fold out maps, and it's all still in here. There were some other ones that I saw and they didn't have like all of these bits still intact. So yeah, that's my first edition Farthest North. But then also I had to get a second edition Farthest North just because I think the covers are really cool. So they are the same on both, but this is the second edition of the same thing. And this one, I believe all of the plates are just black and white in this one, they're not colourful. And this second edition came out in 1898, so just the next year after that. It's not as fancy, it doesn't have all the colourful stuff in, just the black and white pictures still though. And then last but not least, this is technically not just a polar book. So basically, when I was looking at the Fridtjof Nansen Farthest North first and second editions, I also saw this book. This is the Windsor magazine, volume 3. So it's just a bind up of a magazine, which is mad because look how fancy it is, and it's just a magazine bind up. It has fancy pages and everything. And in the description it said something about Fridtjof Nansen, something about the Fram anyway, and I thought, I'll get that, it'll probably be like a page or two about it. This was from, so this was published, this is volume 8 actually, not volume 3. It says volume 3 there, but it says volume 8 here. I don't know what's going on there. This is the magazine from June 1898 to November 1898, and then this was put out in 1898. And yeah, I saw it said that on it. It was like £4 I think, and I thought, oh, that's interesting, it'd probably just be a little spread in here. No, there's actually the whole account of the other guy, Hjalmar Johansson. So it was Nansen and Johansson that did like the trek. The Fram came, the boat landed, those two did the trek across the ice, and it actually has his account in here. I've not read it yet, but because this is set out like a magazine, each of his accounts is like throughout in 6 parts, but it's like a full account of his side of the story. So that's so cool because I didn't know it was going to be such an in-depth thing about the stuff. And I don't know if that exists anywhere else. I've never seen a book about him or anything written by him. Maybe they do exist, or maybe this is the only place that his account is. I don't know. But that was a really cool find that I didn't even know I was going to find. So there we go. Those are all of my polar books. I don't even know what to say. I don't know if anybody's watched this far. But yeah, I like polar exploration, as you can see. Non-fiction is fun when you find something that you're very interested in. Let me know down below if you have a specific topic that you're interested in. Or maybe you don't read non-fiction, but now you think, hey, I like this specific thing. Maybe I'll think about getting a book about it. Let me know down below. Like if you want, comment if you want, subscribe if you want, all that jazz. And I'll see you in a few days with another video.